started. Special meeting, Commissioner Court, Liberty County. Today we're going to be looking at 3 items. Consider approving extension declaration of disaster in Liberty County, Texas, caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Now, in that regard, we already declared the emergency disaster, and that was accepted. That was in the first week of this. And after 7 days, or prior to 7 days, we had to be up that disaster declaration. We did that, and that one, at that point, it hangs until we say it ain't hanging no more, okay? So we're good on that part of it. It's just a precaution to make sure that we're still good with it. And I believe there's really no action we need to take on that.
There isn't. So I asked that you put on there, I guess, with an abundance of caution. I've been assured that because the state and federal declarations came after we initially declared and extended the declaration, that those really kind of trump out, and we're good now. We don't have to do that.
That's good work. Okay. So item number 1 is really no action to be taken. That is still in effect. It probably will be for a while.
What's our current date on that?
The first one was,
I thought the last one we did was till June 8th. Is that right? Or is it
Well,
longer than that?
actually, it said that, but it didn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just extends until we actually say no. But Krista, are you there? Yeah.
I'm here.
Good
Good morning.
Good morning. That first disaster declaration date, was that around the 13th or 16th?
We did the first one on the 13th.
13th, okay,
March.
of March, right. And then we extended that on what date?
Hold on, let me look.
Pretty sure it's in
Or 7 days.
Okay, the first one was the 13th, and then we extended it. Hold on. I'm having to look through the city and the county, so hang on just a second.
I'm actually walking a horse there, Shelley.
Yeah.
There's too many to look through. Sorry, guys. Okay. Then we extended it through April.
By that point, the federal and the state had come down.
Yeah, March 13th is when the federal declaration was done. So once the federal and state declarations are done, we no longer have to extend the local declaration.
Okay.
So we extended it for 30 days on March 20th through April 19th.
Okay. But regardless, it's still in effect, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're federally declared now, so any funding through FEMA will happen now from the time that the federal disaster declaration took place.
Okay. Currently, what was the threshold FEMA? Is it around 260?
I can barely hear you.
Hey! Sorry. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's way down there. Okay.
It's better now.
Cool. What is our threshold? Is it still 268,000 that we have to meet?
286,000, and then there's like 3.8 million that the state of Texas has to meet, which I'm sure we're way past that. But working with FEMA, it's going to be different as far as reimbursement goes on what's going to be covered and what's not going to be covered than it would be for a hurricane or a tropical storm. But we'll just have to work through that when that time comes. I'm still gathering information. I've only had a couple of department heads send me their cost, and I've sent out a couple emails asking for the other ones to send me any documentation of claims that they want to make for reimbursement, and I haven't gotten anything. So, but
Okay.
we'll just go through the motions with that. I'm not sure what the percentage is going to be. It's probably going to be 80-20 at this point.
Okay. We won't talk about hurricanes and floods right now.
No. Mm-mm. I'm retiring today.
No. Sheriff has some restraints we can use on it. It's okay. All right, we just want to get that clarified. So there really is no action to be taken on item number 1. And our threshold is 286 instead of 268. I was dyslexic for a moment here. It's all right though. I can, hey, it's old age, okay? That's all it is. Number 2, consider approved employee compensation policy for period governed by extended declaration of disaster. And this is in particular, Ms. Harris and Matthew and Dwayne, this is really considering the order to pay policy that we imposed to make sure everyone got paid.
That's right.
Okay. Now, are there any items that we need to discuss on here, or should we hit the high points in the road to make sure everybody's informed of what we're doing?
Well, I guess both. So
Well, let's hit both.
I've been getting it, I sent it out, and I apologize to everyone for the short time frame. Y'all had to review it. Mine wasn't much longer. I've been getting calls and kind of revising what I'm recommending to Commissioners Court with that. So the change that I have now, and I've been tracking changes all along, so I can tell you what's different between what I sent out and what I have here today. I would like to put it up on the screen so we can see the exact language I'm working with here. But the only way to do that is to disconnect or not make viewable the folks who are remotely on Zoom. And we can't do that under the open meeting. So,
It's handed around.
yeah, y'all are welcome. It looks like Leah is handing it
That's a
around.
copy of it.
Matthew,
Can you hear me?
Matthew, is there some way you can send it to me?
I did.
This is another copy too.
I got you, Kyle.
You already have it.
Yeah, Leon,
He was
I
wanting
did
to
send you the most
make-
recent, but I've got.
Okay, I just got it.
Yeah, nobody else does out there. Nobody else does out
Here,
Okay.
here, get on my Leon Wilson email. Print that out that Matthew sent to me.
Yeah, I got mine.
Yeah, if y'all bear with me, I'll put it up on the screen here so we can discuss it.
No, I can use Greg's. That's okay. Can't see it either.
Yeah, we have plenty of time. That's the nice thing about this. Just so y'all know, while we're getting this hooked up, strange times, definitely, since all this started, and even stranger times now, watching what's going on in the country. But in accordance with working with the judges in the courthouse and also the JPs, we did submit with an awful lot of help from Judge Kane and his staff, and also with Judge Moorfield, Judge Chambers, and Judge Taylor, and all the JPs, our plan to move forward with the courts through the OCA, and that was all approved by Judge Underwood. So we're in compliance as far as the courts moving forward and working, okay? And there were no questions. Well, especially thank all the judges, and especially Judge Kane and his staff for chipping in there and helping us run this through, and get the courthouse staff too for helping us get the courtrooms marked as social distancing is required.
All right, so everybody in the courtroom should kind of be able to see it, especially if they've got glasses on. Leon has a copy, so we can view it remotely. I've made some changes that in my opinion, it was not, some of the provisions that were included here were a little too mean to the employees. And so those included provisions that did not allow employees to earn vacation hours or even sick hours during pay periods where they're paid quarterly pay. So we've taken that out. The only kind of other big ticket item as far as that goes is has to do with holiday hours. And so what this is about, and we have employees, as everyone knows, who some work 4-10s, some work the DuPont schedule, some work 5-8s in an office, and holidays fall in every kind of available permutation for each of those folks. And so what we're suggesting here is that more or less we treat all employees the same if they are on order to pay. There's a lot of caveats I want to explain about order to pay in a second, but for this purpose, we're assuming that a person is receiving order to pay, not FFCRA, COVID-19 pay or anything like that, but order to pay. So if you're receiving order to pay and a holiday falls within the work week for you, you're going to be treated as if you took that holiday rather than as having worked 40 hours in addition to okay. So, some departments, whenever, especially road and bridge guys, will routinely, when a holiday comes up, work 40 hours, and then they'll bank those hours because they weren't even given the opportunity to take that holiday. But under this plan, they would be treated the same under that circumstance as the folks who aren't given the option of whether or not to take the holiday because the holiday falls on the day that they're scheduled. Okay, so if everyone still gets paid, the only difference is a person is not going to be able to put down hours plus holiday hours that would compensate them for greater than a regular 40-hour work or in the sheriff's law or regularly scheduled. You see what I'm saying? I know it's kind of a little confusing. So how this reads now, I'll read it, and please, this can be tweaked for clarity. And of course, this is a policy decision of commission court, and I'll do whatever commission court wants to do. But this is how I'm suggesting it. In a week that has a holiday, an employee cannot receive holiday hours to be paid during that pay period or during a later pay period if, in addition to regular hours, the employee will receive greater than 40 hours or the amount of hours the employee usually works during that week, whichever is greater. Okay, so you're capped at 40.
Well, in order to pay, it makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And not that our employees would do this, but order to pay hours. The idea is that a person's getting their regular paycheck, and that those number of hours is fixed at their regular number of hours.
So they're getting 160 hours a month.
Yes.
Plain and simple.
That's it. Yeah. Or whatever the math works out. The kind of odd and even number.
Well, sheriff's department a little different.
Yeah, sure. So that's why it's your regular pay, whatever that is.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um,
Does to you? Okay.
a large principle of county government is that folks, the different department heads really can't tell each other what to do, largely. Commissioner's Court does have some oversight on things, but there's because of that, and you can call it checks and balances if you want, you can call it separation of powers. Because of that, it makes some policies a little difficult. In city government, it'd be really easy. The city manager tells everybody how this can be. That's it. But here we have to work with it. And so a lot of this policy is this, and the next one that comes up is assuming a lot of that, okay? So, order to pay under this policy will only be used after the FFCRA time is exhausted for that employee. I'm going to say that again. Order to pay can only be used under this policy after COVID-19 FFCRA pay is exhausted. And that's mainly not only so that our employees are making sure that they're taken care of, but so that the county can capture some benefits afforded to an employer under the FFCRA. Okay? Correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, I believe we get a deduction in our withholding taxes for FFCRA during that quarter or perhaps a subsequent quarter, I'm not sure. But so we want to be able to capture that value for the county while also taking care of our employees. And if we first take care of FFCRA for any given employee and then look to order pay, we're doing that. If we just look to order pay, we're never capturing any of that value. And that would be a shame. So, first, I've added this. The numbers are a little different from the policy that I sent out yesterday, but under, I think it's 2.4, I've added, in 2.5, a couple of things. I've added a fifth paragraph. Under the new 2.5, employees must first exhaust all leave available to them under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act before accruing order to pay. Order to pay under 4, paragraph right before that, employees unable to work shall be paid pursuant to order to pay when department heads or elected officials decide to temporarily close the office for reasons related to COVID-19 and remote work is not available for that employee. So what we're saying is department heads, try the best you can to get folks working remotely if you have to shut your office down again. Not trying to get this.
I haven't had anybody sick,
Yes, thank God.
but I've had some people who have small children or elderly parents where they've had to go and tend to something because there isn't there isn't childcare open or what have you,
Yes.
which is what the thing is for.
Yes,
However, if they take that, they don't get paid the full amount.
that's correct.
So we've been doing their stuff when they have to leave for that under order to pay as opposed to,
And that's a policy question for the court.
I mean, they're going to take a cut and pay if they do it the way you're talking right now.
Right.
If it's not, they're sick.
Right,
If they just have to,
that's correct.
you
That's
know,
exactly
go
right.
pick- there's an exposure or problem, they go pick up the kids from daycare, they're going to lose money.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, to be clear, the FFCRA does exactly that. It says, and we're moving a little ahead, so if please stop me and have me go back. Under the FFCRA, there are 2 types of leave, and they each have their own conditions. One's a shorter term one, and one's a longer term one, okay? The shorter term one is actually the second one in the document. That is you're ready for another acronym, EPSLA. EPSLA. The EPSLA says, under this policy and under the law, that you have 6 possible reasons you can use it for. The first 3 and then the second 3. And the first 3 are something like if you, the employee, is subject to local, state, federal quarantine, if you've been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, if you are experiencing symptoms and seeking a medical diagnosis, meaning you're in the first few days with crud, got shortness of breath, I need to go figure this out, and you're waiting for your test, you're going to the doctor, and all that good stuff. During that time period, under this, the employee will be able to receive their regular rate of pay up to $511 per day. Okay. Now, if it's under 4, 5, or 6, which is you're caring for another person who's subject to self-quarantine, or you're caring for a child who doesn't have childcare, it's unavailable, et cetera. Or you're experiencing, and this is a catch-all, substantially similar condition specified by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, then you are capped at 2/3. And so what this does is it incentivizes, and this is a policy question. So this incentivizes employees to stay home if they are sick. Okay, but it does not incentivize employees to not go do everything they can to find childcare, take care of that aspect of life. So that I want to be clear on what this does, so the decision can be made. Yeah.
Okay, Matthew, I know you hit those categories, 100%, 2/3.
Yeah.
Have you addressed it? Maybe I just missed it, but have you addressed the ones who have critical conditions, you know, that are, say have a.
Very good question. No, I haven't.
Okay, because they really don't have any kind of parameters. And to me, that's the one that's the biggest, in my opinion, that's the one that, when do we allow them to come to work? Does the doctor have to say they're ready to come back? Because if they had diabetes and they are high risk, or they had chemotherapy, they're high risk. To me, the policy almost says they can stay out to December 31st through the whole terminology without even getting 100% pay.
Well, so so there's a number of things that are in here that do address that somewhat. First, it encourages department heads to folks in those situations to remote work, you know, if at all possible. Now, I know a lot of departments can't do it, just can't do it. Under any circumstances, you gotta have folks here, and that's just how it is. I understand that. And those sorts of situations are going to be governed under, I think it's 6 in the original, but under the reasonable accommodations under ADA. So this document is drafted by Victor's staff, and if y'all work with my office, Treasurer's office, on ADA issues in the past, I rather routinely get their employment law experts, and that's who's drafted it. And they say, and it is exactly right, that we have to consider those issues as a reasonable accommodation under the ADA. And I will, maybe now's a good time to do a PSA on ADA, which is we don't have a right to ask for a person's health conditions, et cetera, but they do have a right to have reasonable accommodations considered if they do have something.
They indicated to us that the doctor is suggested, or it said you stay home because you're high risk, and the policy almost addresses that.
Yes.
My next question would be, are we going back to review what we've done retroactive, or this is going forward?
This is going forward.
Because we've done a lot of these things. We've already made some decisions about a lot of times with my department. We had people at home. Now they come back. And there's various, you know, as you know, we've discussed some of these various situations.
Right. No, there is.
It's done, like, you know, so what's been done is done. That's going forward with this policy.
That's right. So my idea here, and what I'm hoping for Commissioner's Court, is a policy that will let department heads know what to do, and employees have some expectation of what the future will look like. Now that we're into this kind of midterm, mid-game, end game kind of.
I appreciate that, and I go back to the first meeting we had. I said, am I, as elected official, vulnerable or responsible for what happens to my employees by interpretation? And to me, this gives some, that the policy has been for us to follow. I know it's still up to me as department head to make this, but I needed some kind of basic rules to go by.
That's exactly right.
And I appreciate that being in writing, and hopefully the Commissioner's Court will adapt something that we can turn to and say, okay, it's this criteria, and now I feel from here forward that that's what we're following.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So that's the hope here. And from the county's perspective, we don't know what things are going to happen in the future. I don't think any of us can predict whether an employee is going to come down with illness. and whether that, we're gonna have to shut down an entire department, or multiple departments, we don't know. And so we need policies that let department heads make those decisions as quickly as possible, and that everything is above the board and transparent. It adds to that, one thing this is going to require is that department heads or elected officials will notify the county treasurer and the county judge within 24 hours in writing sign, saying that they're closing down their department and why. You know, I've had an employee test positive, or something to that effect, and why they're doing it. And, you know, try to give a best estimate for when you're gonna have to stay down and when you can reopen and that sort of thing. So, but, you know, this, this is the, I guess, the new manual. We're having to write these rule books as we go along here. But there are some things I think that we need to do. So, yeah. The EPSLA will give you again 100% if you're under reasons 1 through 3, 4, 5, or 6. It will be at 2/3 of the greater of the employee's regular pay or the applicable minimum wage, and it's capped at $200 per day for the employee. Okay.
I'm in capped also as a gross amount. I mean, it goes up to that per day, and it, just like even the other, I think the presidential thing had a cap on the end, a monetary cap.
Yeah,
Up to so much a day and then a gross amount.
that's correct. Yes, $200 per day and $2,000 in total for the second, up to 5,100 and 511 under the first category. And then a person in more long-term situations has the EFMLPA. Yeah, which is 2/3 only. Okay.
And is that for the 12 weeks, just like the regular FMLA packages?
Let's see.
Because the one we've always had is 12 weeks that preserves their job.
That's correct. Yeah, this is, you know, I'm blanking on that. Yeah, I'm not sure if you have FMLA or if this entirely replaces.
We were, I mean, I was assuming that it followed that same pattern, but I couldn't find that answer in what the presidential thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, FMLA governs a lot of other situations. This isn't.
And it's almost like this declaration modified the FMLA. They used the FMLA framework and then they modified it for COVID-19. Because still FMLA applies, they have some definite rules on that we've always been under. And if a person's out, you just preserve the job for 12 weeks. It's kind of the simple part of it. But this has a lot more meat to it than that.
It does.
It's saying that because at the end of that 12 weeks, your job's not guaranteed. To me, this deal, I have that question. Okay, if you held your job for 12 weeks and they still are under this restraint, do they have a job at the end of that 12 weeks?
Yeah,
I mean, needs to know, and we've always referred to HR to say, no, or and again, I sent to HR, but again, I know HR to say, I don't have a policy from the commissioner's court, so I have to just go what's in the commission. So I understand that. So it's like, we're trying to not me make the decision because of the budgetary restraints. I can't say you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
Because even though I know what was echoed from the commissioner's court from day one is, and it was reassuring, you will get paid regardless.
Yes.
But now we're in a different phase, and now we're going to say you may not get 100% paid if you fall under these categories. So it is a difference because we've gone longer, I'm sure, than anybody anticipated back in March when we were looking at this. And we're still very much in it, and who knows how much longer we're going to be in it. So I think it's a different approach. And again, like in my department, if I have 13 people and 11 of them show up to work, we're still going to do our job. Right? It's not like, okay, we lost some production, so we can't do this. We have work. We're all back at work, but we have some people with different conditions.
Right.
To me, maybe they shouldn't be back at work.
Right.
Or they should be, and that's what we're trying to say. That's the clarification.
And now we'll say that the EFMLEA is capped at $10,000 in the act. I will check my,
Just pulled it up now.
okay,
And it says additionally, employees are limited to a total of 12 weeks of expanded family and medical leave under the EFMLEA, including the applicable time period, April 1 to December 31, 2020, spans 2 12-month leave periods under the FMLA.
okay. So that means you're capped at 12
I
weeks.
say yes.
Yeah, so you're capped at 12.
So it's under that umbrella that hasn't changed, and that makes it a little easier.
So, yeah, I believe that's all the highlights here.
Plenty of them. Considering as we moved into this, that our main goal was to make sure that employees were compensated regardless of what happened. I think we met our goal there. Nobody lost anything as far as time and them getting paid. But now we have to tweak it to where it's going to work in perpetuity, and we don't know what perpetuity is going to be. But going into this, nobody really knew how long it's going to last. Some people have told me it's going to end in November after the election. Go figure. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball that's going to tell me that. But that's just conspiracy theorists and such. But I have not discussed it with Constable Mad Dog to find out for sure what the answer is.
Hey, Judge, can I ask you a procedure question?
Yes, sir.
Not paid questions, but procedure questions.
Yes, sir, please.
Matthew, that you had on number 7 on A and then B, and it was talking about, I totally agree and everything with if they're experiencing any symptoms not coming to work, because we've been doing that already. If they have fever or something, we send them home. But then it says that they're supposed to notify us if they have been exposed, which they have been doing. And then we added, we have to notify Office of Emergency Management.
Yeah.
And then the next one says that when we notify them, and the exposed part is my question, not catching it or anything, but if they've been exposed, then we have to work with emergency management. The department head doesn't get to make anything with emergency management's going to tell us if we have to quarantine somebody that may be exposed that hasn't tested, shows no signs, no anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you're gonna have to work with OEM, and maybe they're also gonna need to get medical advice, ascertain whether.
And we do, if they've been exposed, we do that already.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
no, all right. I know, I'm sure
So
you-
we're just going to involve emergency management involved.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And then on the next page, and I think I know what it means on number 7, the B. Reasonable accommodation. According to handbook, employees should direct a request for accommodation to the county treasurer, but they need to include the department head. Correct?
Yes, and that's for several reasons. The county treasurer's office can act as a buffer so that, we want employees' confidential information not to be shared with the employer, more or less. And they can function as a way to kind of help make sure that happens. But typically the treasurer's office reaches out to me, I get bigger staff involved, and we go through a procedure and it works out just fine.
Yeah, you got Office of Emergency Management involved in all the HIPAA stuff too, with the medical stuff.
Yeah, well, they're neck deep in it anyways.
Well, it's just a matter of reporting, but Sheriff, for all practical purposes, my office is emergency management.
Correct.
Yeah. So you can just let us know. But I always can, considerations with emergency management with Christy and her group, we talk on 3 times a day. So
I've been calling Matthew on the stuff and running by the legality of what we do.
right.
And would notification be an email you just 60 that we serve as
Notification here. What will you need?
I mean, if you're reporting to the judge and HR, I mean, copy and emergency
Yeah,
management.
yeah.
It's not like you gotta reach out to them, they're
That's
part of the chain on the deal. And
Yes.
then the other clarification question was, I see some of these, like you going forward, you have 80 hours. What if they've already used 80 hours? Is that considered they're 80 already in the past? I know we said we're starting forward.
Oh, that's
forward
forward
now. But when you get into the calculation, how much you're eligible for, is it starting with the adoption of this new policy, regardless of what you've taken in the past?
No.
You've already used some of that.
If you've already used it, I believe you should maintain those hours. That's because we're piggybacking off of federal law.
And that's, I agree.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's not a clean slate. It's just some
No.
of this policy going
That's
forward. But if you've already used 80 hours, you don't get another 80 hours.
That's correct. We can't grant any more than what, of that COVID-19.
You've already met that test. Just clarification.
And so this policy does not do away with order to pay. But it limits it to department heads' discretion whenever they have to shut down their office. It limits it down to a shutdown office.
And that was a big question. It was like, what if there's a reoccurrence and are we stopping completely order to pay today? Or are we going to let it continue on a limited basis? I think that's kind of what we're shooting for.
Yeah, I would recommend, but obviously, there are multiple sides of this. I would recommend keeping order to pay under limited circumstances when offices need to do that and after we exhaust these
What,
other.
Matthew, you would recommend what?
I hope you've been able to hear me. I would recommend that we keep order to pay, but with the criteria that it only be used when a department head shuts down their office again. And either, and that might mean a partial shutdown where everyone goes home, but, a person managing the phones and, or whatever, a very minimal skeleton crew thing like that. I don't think Commissioners Court should wade into a huge criteria kind of thing where they're trying to evaluate every conceivable situation of its use, other than to say it needs to happen only whenever, you're shut down. God, I hope we don't have to shut down, but we need to be prepared.
Krista, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. In speaking with DSHS, what was their anticipation for any kind of reoccurrence in the fall? Remember?
Yeah, so in discussion, they're saying August we could see another round. As early as August, we could see another round of it.
Okay. Just in time for big time hurricane season in September. Yeah. All right. Well, that's the reason we're doing this, guys. It in any situation, you're going to play the what if. What if this happens, then what are you going to do? And we want to make sure the employees are compensated. I mean, you're not punished because you have to go home. And it's just simple as that. We have excellent employees. We want to keep them. But there's some wiggle room for reimbursement in areas that we can get reimbursed, through the federal government. So we need to take advantage of that if we, by all means. That would make, I'm sure, Dwayne happy if he's still here with us today. But, and especially on the HR side with Kim and her group, the main gist is to treat everybody as fair as we can, but to follow the rules as best we can. And the rules were very, very vague walking into this thing in March. So I think our adaptation as we move forward is very worthwhile. As we look at it now, Matthew, is there a summary that we need to go back through and review just to hit the high points? Or is there really anything that we need to go back and rewrite and then forward this back to the court for approval? Or can we approve today?
I think you can approve today. Yeah, I think so. When you were just talking about hurricanes, it made me think, well, what happens if we get a hurricane?
Yep.
And an office closes? Are all those employees going to be subject to the FFCRA pay, even though it's for a hurricane, has nothing to do with COVID? So I just had another sentence saying offices closed for reasons other than COVID-19 shall be governed by the employee handbook.
Okay. Well, the main thing there, you remember back during Harvey, yeah, the courthouse was closed, but the precincts were not. And they were working full speed ahead, and so was the sheriff's department and constables too. So those are areas that you can't stop, but you still have to look at compensation, for those that do not have to report in case the floodwaters or looking at the back, at the weep holes on the courthouse. That's the other side of it too. And that's always an anticipation if WCID 5 doesn't work accordingly. Okay.
Matthew, another question, and again, now that schools are quote closed, we're not in that situation, but again, that's gonna be another challenging time. If August 13th, I think is the target for schools opening today anyway, is how we treat the daycare, because again, that's 2/3 from what I understand, that's item number 5, which is a 2/3 if you stay at home with your kids, and they also capped it at 80 hours. And we've already had some employees that have used, if you took the whole time they were out, would be 40 hours, but since we were only open 50/50 on their off days, if you didn't count that against their being out with their kid, there's all kind of combinations there that you stretch that week out to 2 weeks.
Yes.
Because you were only working 50/50 because everybody was on a flex schedule.
Right.
So hopefully you can start addressing some of those things. We still have till August, but to me, I have probably 3 or 4 working moms that had kids that we've already triggered some of that. So they've already maybe used half of that. And then if we get into a new school year with that, that's going to be probably a bigger use. And the way I see it is 2/3 paid, but it's also capped at 80 hours.
That's correct.
And then you got to use personal leave. And as you know, we had that situation questioned just in May. And
Yeah, we're good to see those questions.
we didn't know how to handle it, and as it turned out, that person didn't opt to take the 2/3 pay. Right, just to let you know, so.
And that's right. And so that's what, again, now we can't monkey with COVID-19
No.
pay here. The conditions for that are these conditions, and that's set by federal law. There's nothing we can do about that. So the only question the Commissioners Court would have on the point of 2/3 pay, et cetera, is if you want to use order to pay instead of this for those reasons. And so.
You can't be more restricted than the government.
But we can't be,
You can't be
more liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah, since they're gonna be picking up the dime on some of this.
And that clearly says that that's through December 31st.
That's correct.
So, it's kind of like, that's a window that's already been established in all these declarations from the presidential, and I think the state adopted the same thing through 12/31/20.
That's correct.
Do you feel we'll hit the threshold of $286,000?
Oh, man, that's a Krista question. Yeah, so, in hard costs, as far as masks, that sort of thing, I
No,
don't think we're anywhere close.
no.
But I don't know what all we can claim under for FEMA reimbursement either, so that's a good Krista question.
Employee compensation,
The COVID-19 leave pay gross amount, the liability amount is a little over $91,000. The order to pay is over $500,000.
Is that criteria
So-
satisfied the 286, is that what you're saying?
yeah.
If we get to use order to pay. then
In
yes.
order to pay, yeah,
Done, yeah.
but I don't know that it would be.
But you're saying at best we would get reimbursed 80% of that if it's an 80/20, after you meet the threshold.
Perhaps. You hear us, Krista? They've got a lot of good questions for you.
Which doesn't really concern me as a deal, but I think it concerns the commissioner's court, because I think the only reason we're documenting this, of course, is to not be liable.
I'm muted. I was muted.
At the same time, you want to know what you can get reimbursed down the end of the road. We're trying to document all that for reimbursement. Maybe 2 years from now, we'll get it.
Krista, do you know if any of, this order to pay is potentially reimbursable?
as far as employees go, it can be potentially reimbursable. However, it's not going to be 100% like it would a disaster as far as a storm goes. It's right now it's sitting at 80-20, so 80% of it would be reimbursable. However, that can change. You know,
Of course.
all I can do is submit it and go from there, like we do the rest of reimbursable stuff.
Yeah, the buckets might already be drained by the time we get there. But if can the order to pay go towards our threshold qualification?
Yes.
Then we met our qualification.
I mean, we've already met the threshold anyway, regardless. Between the City of Liberty and City of Cleveland and the claims that I've submitted so far, we're almost at our threshold. And the state of Texas is well beyond the state of Texas threshold. So I'm actually working on documentation right now to start the process for this project worksheet stuff.
Kim's got some more for you.
Okay.
Okay. So moving forward and looking at all of the acronyms, and Lord, there's a pile of them. The safest way to say this is that department heads make your call and for your departments. You know, you're going to be communicating with a lot of folks though. Nelia, your group, you know, something happens, you know, the best thing to do is get with me and Matthew and Kim and let us know what's going on. Then we can look through there and see what your people have left to take and what is the best route they can take and not lose anything and have the most beneficial gain through the entire episode, if it's for 2 weeks or whatever. You know, the worst case scenario for us is, you know, you got a hurricane that hits, we're out of here for 2 weeks, and then somebody comes back and they've got COVID and they're out another 2 weeks. And that's a tough call, but that's why we're all here today, to figure out what is the best route to go through to make sure that everybody gets reimbursed, and also not just reimbursed, but paid as best they can, So department heads will be making your own call. I know y'all would like to toss, you know, to the commissioners and say, y'all make the call. We don't know your people, not all the folks. I wish I knew all the deputies that the sheriff has. They change so often, I can't keep up with them. You know, that's one thing.
I think you can say, Judge, that we manage our own situation and try to keep it in the boundaries, but we're really dependent on how we report it to HR,
Right.
making sure we're using the right codes, because that's how it's memorialized going forward.
Right.
And to me, we have followed that procedure, and we have actually, when we were exposed, we self-quarantined a specific group. We went to 50-50. Now we pulled everybody back in, and it was at their choice to come back in. But basically, they came in with the understanding that they didn't come in, they were back to go to 2/3 pay. And that's, in those three that I think are still kind of hanging. If that is not the case, I think the sooner we correct that, the better, or we hold fast with what they're doing. They're back at work on their own will, but maybe that's a strict interpretation. And as elected official, I'm looking for some herd mentality, that I'm following the whole herd consistently, because if I do something that keeps the commissioner's court from getting reimbursed, I've hurt the effort.
Yeah.
And we can't be 12 departments on our own trying to figure it out. That's why we're looking to commissioner's court to give us a leadership and to give us a pattern, and then give us some discretion in the meantime. So if we're all looking at the same procedure, maybe interpreted a little different, but we have that as a backstop to say everybody's looking at it the same way. And I think that's what this policy addresses, because we realize it's been lacking, especially when we've had to address some of these same very questions and didn't have a directed procedure from our policy manual does not cover it. And I'd like to see it addressed in the policy manual so the employees can read it And I don't want to be the one interpreting it for the employees.
Exactly.
I've always made it like, you call HR and they will direct it to you. And again, then we talk to the judge's office because a lot of it is judgment.
Yeah.
And so if we can have something, I'm not interpreting for the employees. Like you said, we're dealing with their personal health issues. I don't want to ask them, well, okay, why can't you come to work? Because that's all protected under HIPAA and all these other things, I'm saying the right word. There's a line there we can't cross as elected official, in my opinion. So that's the whole bundle of it. And I encourage this,
That's the short side of the story. The long side of the story is your employees anyway.
and I have no problem.
Yeah.
Interpreting it.
Yeah.
And that's,
Well, as we said before,
Ask them what
Yeah.
their ailment
Yeah.
is. If they say, I feel good and I can't come in, that's it.
well, basically, I've been going by that they have a doctor's saying they should not go to work. So I accept that
Do
because the
we,
doctor's not good.
do we ask for that? At what time? The minute, the day of they call?
Our
the
current
day?
policy says if you're out more than 3 days,
3
you have to have a
days.
doctor's excuse. So I think it kind of falls in place with that, but we want to know if they're having some, if our employees were exposed to some. So I mean, there's a
And that-
communication that we
And
try
that's
to.
what I'm looking at. We're asking 3 days for a
I'm
doctor.
not saying 3 days, but that's, to me, these people, when they fill out their leave slip, they said, I have a doctor's recommendation that I don't come to work. And that, I accepted that, and I put that on the leave slip. So I'm not saying that's a policy, but that was our policy, how we documented on our request for leave, that it was under, and we even had a category for COVID-19, if it's under, stay at home with your kids, we had that identified on our particular form so that we could document this stuff. And we have been doing that since March 13th.
Very good. I like that form, by the way.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, now we have at least the line items on reporting for time that everybody can.
Because I felt one day we're gonna have to all be able to prove this up, because we know how grants work, they never time you, and they're always once you forgot everything. So we've been trying to leave a paper trail all the way through, even to the point of leaving how many phone calls we're getting, what we're doing, even though we're not open to the public. So that kind of justifies what we're doing. Now we're trying to figure out when can we open up to the public and what are gonna be the restraints. And unfortunately, we've allowed some car hopping to keep them from having to come through. And it is getting crazy right now. We had people running over people almost yesterday in the parking lot, and our staff's trying to get them. And so to me, it's almost better we open to the public and go bring them in the building. We know we can have 4 or 5 people, and then we just line everybody else outside to the road.
Yep.
Because that's where we are. And it mushroomed yesterday to the point that it looked like tax day.
Mhm.
People coming in, coming out, and again, it's making our staff go out there and direct the traffic. And that's, we've gone to try to keep them, to still give them their registration. We're trying to keep that, because we know when we open up, the people who have to come in to get title transfers, the governor's 60-day stay has kept them from being penalized. But once we open to the public, we know we're gonna have a rash of those people that are coming in. And there's gonna be 4 at a time. And we're gonna have to have somebody corralling them outside.
Mhm.
Because right now, it's already started. And word of mouth is everybody just showing up in our parking lot.
Well, it's good to hear they're coming in.
Yeah.
It's easier to say, get a number, wait, or why don't you just put it in the freaking mail like we told you to.
Yeah.
And, you don't need to come in the office. I'm trying to encourage, do what you have already available to you.
See, YouTube got that.
I think most of that we're gonna address in the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, I think that opens up the next section.
The biggest question I've had, Rick, people call me that are our age, that they're paying on the quarterly installment, over 65, they're like,
Post office is open,
that's right.
and we honor,
But they like to come in and see you.
it's all they want, they don't trust you. They
Yeah.
want to-
Okay.
The mail's open.
All right. So I think we're clear in what our intention is.
Yeah, so.
I just asked Matthew if if we could summarize from, timesheet perspective and documentation perspective from my office, Lisa's payroll purposes, exactly what the change is from, before you adopt or don't adopt this policy to what it will be immediately after it's adopted. So if we can kind of summarize that right now and get that clarified, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, so this requires, order to pay only after each employee has exhausted all their FFCRA time. FFCRA has two components, a 2-week one and then a 12-week one with maximum caps beyond that. So that one or the other. And it tells, it encourages remote work, of course. It encourages, or it will use the reasonable accommodation procedure under the ADA to, for folks who might be particularly vulnerable to the coronavirus. It limits the amount of time a person can take in a holiday pay period, such that their holiday plus the amount of order to pay does not exceed either 40 hours or their regular number of hours for that pay period. I think that's pretty good.
So the order to pay is suspended on a countywide employee basis unless the department head provides me with documentation that they have closed.
That's correct. You and Judge
And the
Hines.
judge.
And so they'll
Hey, Matthew, order to pay what?
order to pay will not be triggered. You can't use it unless you close your office. And in closing it, you have to send notice to Judge Knight's office and the sheriff's office and explain why you're closing. Hey, I had an employee who's been working with us and been around all my other employees, test positive or something like that.
So my office is not authorized to accept order to pay time unless I have written signed documentation from the department head stating that their office is officially closed.
Yes.
So we're not getting rid of order to pay completely,
No.
just gonna be triggered with these
With the-
circumstances.
And employees must first exhaust all leave available to them under FFCRA. So an office closes, that person's gonna have to exhaust FFCRA and then order to pay kicks in.
Okay.
Depending on how that goes.
How long would a person have between the time that they experiences any of these symptoms here and getting actual confirmation from medical staff?
Kristen, what's the turnaround on tests these days? Is it about 5 days? Does that sound about right? Oh, hold on a second, we're on mute. There you go.
It depends on what provider they use, because different providers are using different labs. So if they use LabCorp or Quest, it's pretty quick turnaround, but if they're using any other labs, it takes several days. So it's up to the provider that they use to determine which lab they're using for the testing.
So we're looking 24 hours or 72 hours, you think?
So if an employee decided to, was experiencing any of these, and it's just the flu or a cold or whatever, they would be advised to seek medical attention and be not forced to, but at any time, will we be able to question or ask the employee why they're off or why they're doing this, or?
Yeah, so you can ask the employee to get a doctor's note, or less, and that's what we have to provide.
Matthew,
Yes.
when a person is tested for COVID, they actually are given documentation that that tells them what they need to do until they get the testing back. And part of that documentation they can send into their employer showing that they've been tested.
Very good, very good. Yes. Yes.
So if there was an employee who goes to get tested, and they're gonna be on. So they're burning their own time.
That's FCRA time, that's correct.
So they're exhausting their vacation, their sick time first.
They don't have to exhaust their vacation sick, that I'm aware, but they have to exhaust their FCRA time before. If they want to, an employee can choose, you know what, I've got, what's the max on vacation hours?
120.
120. I've got 120 vacation hours. I don't even want to fool with that other time. I put down vacation hours and they're just fine.
While they're being tested, when they're being tested. They
Yes. Yes.
I'm not understanding why it's not going to order pay.
Yeah. Well.
And here's my theory.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got them in this office, we've opened up the courthouse, we're exposing them to the public and they get sick.
Yeah.
We've done it, not them, we've done it.
Right.
But yeah, we're gonna ask them to burn up all their time first before we do the order to pay.
But can we prove that they was exposed there, or was they exposed when they went to Walmart's?
Well, I mean, that's my question.
You know, if it's,
Yeah. What he's saying is remember on the timesheet, you got order to pay, you got COVID-19.
Correct.
If they have so many hours of COVID-19 they can use that the federal government pays for, you have to use those hours before you start using order to pay hours.
Those are the hours that they have to.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then after that, if they were still sick, because
Yes.
sometimes if they've got COVID, 14 days is not long enough.
Right.
As we know.
Sometimes
4 weeks.
Yeah.
So then they could go into their time at that point.
That's correct. So, and I do want to make a distinction here. Remember, we talked about two types of the FCRA time.
Right.
The short-term one is a 2-week one, 10 business days.
Right.
And that's for if you're sick or your candidates and all that. Now, under the extended one, that's only for if you have school, childcare issues, okay? Not if you're sick. So if you're sick, you first use the full pay one.
Right.
And then you go to order.
Okay, all right, that makes sense, okay. Okay, right.
Anybody else got any questions? Comments?
Matthew,
Yes.
let's go back to page 2, item 3.
Page 2, item 3, okay?
Subject to the conditions outlined in this order, the accrual of vacation leave will be temporarily suspended for employees who are paid pursuant to the order to pay employees.
I think vacation.
Employees will not acquire vacation or sick leave during pay periods where a portion of the employee's pay is paid subject to the order to pay.
I've taken out all that language. Now, I can put
All that's gonna be removed.
That's correct. So mine has, the Commissioner Court finds the public purpose under 1. My numbering's a little screwed up, but as soon as I accept the track changes, it'll fix itself. 2, in a week that has a holiday, the holiday hours language. And then 3, it goes into the remote work, telework section. And I've taken out entirely the part about vacation and sick hours and all that junk.
Okay, because the one you emailed me this morning is still in there.
What?
Yes.
Possible. I'm sure I screwed that up, Leon. But I can assure you it is out.
Okay.
so page 2, paragraph 3 is completely gone.
Yes, if that's the one that said.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
So
that's completely it. Of course, I work, at the will of the Commissioner's Court, so y'all tell me what you want to do, and I'll change whatever within the bound of law.
Let's go back to the order to pay.
Yes,
I just want to make this straight. So, but we can't use order to pay unless we close our office.
That's correct.
So that wouldn't be possible for.
Well, that's a fair point. Yeah, so,
Yes.
right, yeah, no, that's a fair point, the way it's worded now.
Right,
Yeah,
so that's what
so-
I'm saying, because I could partially close my office, we could do all, and we could work from home remotely, say,
Yeah, yeah,
because you can't actually do stuff if you are waiting to do some, your test to come back or whatever. You could be paid order to pay, right? Even, I don't know.
right, no, say it again.
Well, I'm just thinking out loud. What I'm saying is you said we cannot use order to pay unless we completely shut down our office.
That's true,
So
but
if
really,
one person
yeah,
is home testing positive for COVID, and then they exhaust the COVID and then need to go to order to pay,
yeah.
if the office is still open, it wouldn't work.
You're exactly right. So, yeah, we need to, if the court's good with that, what we need to say is,
That should go to each individual employee, Matthew, not the entirety of the office.
exactly, and that's what Brenda was just saying, yeah. So I think what it should say is something like, employees unable to work shall be paid pursuant to order to pay when department heads or elected officials temporarily close the offices and remote work is not available for that employee, or if the employee has, for reasons qualifying them to receive FFCRA pay, exhausted all FFCRA pay. I think that does it. Yeah. So, yeah, so what it does is, we'll say it again, just so that we scare out any other, issues like that. So if an employee or a department head closes an office, first, that all employees shall exhaust their FFCRA time, and then they will qualify for an order to pay. Or if a single employee outside of an office closure gets sick, exhausts their FFCRA time, then they will also get ordered.
Yeah.
And only under those circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I can live with that.
All right. I'm sure you're going to take a little time to write all this back out again, but
I have it right here.
okay.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
Everybody good. So next action would be to approve
With the
with the amendments or changes.
I'll make a motion that we approve with the amendments that we've mentioned in the, today.
Okay, got a motion from Greg to approve. Need a second.
I'll second.
Got a second from Bruce to approve. Okay, we'll call for a vote. And then, of course, we'll take this and reprint it for everybody. And y'all remember, we can always go back and revisit.
And we have to have some guidelines and.
We have to have some guidelines now.
We have to have some guidelines and.
Yeah.
We'll be tweaking this, I'm sure, over the next.
Well, there's going to be questions that come up. I mean, there's going to be other circumstances. I mean, hell, we could have an earthquake. I mean, let's go ahead and just call it, whatever. Yeah. But, I mean, Leon might hold a water skiing event out in the ditches of Old River drainage. Who knows?
We did have an earthquake, financial.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we did. All right. All right, we got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Likewise, nays. That motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll go ahead and get this thing put to bed and hopefully snoring. Okay. Well, that's the first item. We got one more to go though. Number 3, consider and approve the policy reopening to the public county courthouse and offices and procedures that shall be used by employees and members of public that enter the courthouse and county offices. This has been a subject that's been coming for a while. And I'm going to give you some reasons why it's taken this long. Number one, Sheriff, if you know as well as I do, how hard is it to get thermometers? Now, there's certain thermometers we can use and some we can't use. Okay, so we've gotten a pretty good supply of excellent quality, pull the trigger and shoot you in the head thermometers. So we'll be passing those out. And Dee Dee has those in my office. And you'll also be asked to sign off on receipt of a thermometer to use in your office or in your annex or in your courtroom or in the constable's office. Either way, Robbie, so y'all be sure to get one. And Judge Wilburn, I know, have you received one yet? If you haven't, we got one for you. Okay. All right. That's the first thing. Second thing was how to do this safely. And a lot of the departments have been proactive. I know Brother Rick has put up barricades or barriers. I know in your office up at the annex in Cleveland, you already had these there, but you had to do something for your office here in Liberty. But the Dayton annex already had a nice little enclosure. So everybody was good. Delia, I mean, you're good. Okay. Brenda, y'all are good so far? I mean, no? Well, I mean.
Well, we're not gonna bring them in our office.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave them out in the public hall.
Good. You can holler through the door. It's all right. Yeah. Okay. But those are things that we have to look at. Judge Hebert, we've talked a little bit about this too, about how you're going to be doing one of the biggest items on your agenda to get knocked out are going to be evictions. And I'm sure Judge Wilburn has the same problem right now. People are lined up wanting to get rid of dead. Clean that up. Folks that have not paid for a long time.
Judge, back to your, we got our spit cards, the hang up is, where kind of the rub is, who's going to administer, in our particular case, who's going to be shooting them and telling them they got to fill out this deal and who's going to be policing them.
Yeah.
And I don't think, just like yesterday, you got way crazy. It's almost like, am I going to have some help from the outside to be that, stop them at the door, basically shoot them, have them fill out the form, or is that required of my staff to do that? And I don't feel comfortable having my ladies controlling the crowd out there. It's bad enough now, us trying to manage it, but I was under the impression that we would have some kind of uniform officer there to administer that. And that's what I'd like clarification on.
Okay, in that regard, how about the annex in Cleveland? Somebody at the front door?
To me, right now, none of those are open, but again, we're already on the inside behind the glass. But if we have to go outside in Cleveland or Dayton or Liberty, then and that one person is in contact with the public, not only the confrontation of trying to control them and hey, only 4 can go in at a time. And I mean, once we establish that, it's going to take a little bit, but just because, when we open the door, they come on in and of course, we have to control that. But if we're to that point that it's my staff doing it versus we're supplied with an officer. Now in Cleveland, they could be accompanying the clerk and the tax office and all that, but our office is just us, so.
Well, I think the annex in Cleveland, my anticipation would be that to ask the constable's office up there, since he has a larger staff than the others do.
But it would be a 20.
We have the same problem in Dayton.
Yeah.
Dayton annex.
Larry,
Just like
what's your suggestion? Because your courtroom is going to be a different critter.
Right.
All the way around.
And are they checking them to go in court and they have to go to the tax office after that?
Yeah.
As long as they get in the building and they're tested, they're good to go everywhere.
Yeah.
Or they're not good to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But our situation, and so I think we can kind of depend on that. They're going to be protecting themselves because they're protecting the court and they're protecting JP.
Mm-hmm.
That we will be covered in Dayton, Cleveland. My primary concern is we're standalone here in Liberty.
Yeah.
And I think we need the assistance of some, law enforcement that has to be there at 8 o'clock and has to be there till 4:30 like we are. Or we just tell, we get appointments and it's not, our appointment is they pull up in the parking lot and they blow the horn. It's not like, oh, I can come in and do an appointment. It's a 2-minute car registration. They're not gonna make an appointment 2 days in advance. They're coming in and they're sitting out there and they wanna get it done, even though they can mail it in or they can go online. They don't want it. They want it right there in person.
In your opinion, how many people do you think it would take to do this? As far as holding a thermometer and having a form to fill out
It's how many bullets.
and log them? Yeah. Well, your batteries might go dead, but that's about it. Yeah.
It's tax day
Every day right now. Yeah.
right now, and these are non-profit to the county. These are $75 registrations that the county makes $10 off of. These are now titles. We've been doing that for the franchise builders because we didn't want that sales tax. We've been working with them. They drop it off, they come pick it up, and that's tax dollars. We've been servicing them.
Yeah.
But all these pin-up title changes that people have been waiting. Billy Bob sold to John Bob, and now he wants his title changed. He's hampering to come in, even though we tell him you still got 60 days, but they may be waiting for the guys going back to college, so he needs his title now before he goes back up to SFA or something like that. And they don't understand waiting. They want it done right now, and they're gonna hit us. And if we can only do 4 at a time, and the average title takes about 10 minutes, that means ideally, we're gonna be doing about 20 an hour, maybe. And then we have the registrations in between, and we just sent out 29,000 delinquent tax letters. So believe me, some of them want to pay before that 20% hits.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all these things are kind of culminating now where we're getting a lot of traffic. And rightfully so, we want them, but they don't have to come in to do all these things, but they will show up. So we need some kind of, at least at Liberty, having them.
Okay.
So I anticipate either we control the hours and say we can only take it from, certain time, but a lot of it's just spontaneous. They see somebody there, they pull in.
Yeah.
And then they're coming from all over the county.
All right. Well, in the annexes, since, and
They start
I'm,
opening up,
yeah.
that will help diffuse some of that, and rightfully so, but,
well, since with the annexes, and I'm not throwing Robbie under the bus or any other constable, but since they are the bailiff for the judge, I would think that the security of that building also falls under their
they're
auspices
gonna
as
have an
well.
interest of controlling who
Right.
comes into the tax office. Now they're right there in
I
there.
know Robbie didn't want Judge Wilbur getting sick, so it's simple as that. Yeah. So I think we could call on them to help in that regard. Now we got to get somebody to help you.
That's,
Okay.
and I
I don't know if Les is trying to talk or not up there. Les? No, he can't.
he's volunteering.
I don't know.
There he is.
Was you volunteering there, Les?
No, I was scratching my head. I'm not volunteering.
You just want to be ready for it when it comes.
Yeah.
And how long is this going? Do we anticipate this to continue on? I mean,
Well-
taking temperatures, and if we have a second wave, it may
Bill
be
said it's till 2021 when he put his tape down. See, we got to
Yeah.
get used to this, so.
after the election in November.
Yeah, I think, don't be surprised. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's gonna be a little longer than that.
I think it will be. But we're gonna have to do something as far as how to help Brother Rick and me.
And then if
Tax
this
office.
thing bleeds over into January, when we're really gonna take a hit because we don't allow people to come in and pay their taxes, that's when it's really gonna
All right.
affect our bottom line a little more so.
Leon, you listening?
I'm listening. My
What-
question is, what are you gonna do with all the asymptomatic people?
With all the way.
I didn't catch.
Asymptomatic people.
Well, that's just it. We don't know they got it and they're coming anyway.
They don't slip through.
Yeah, that's it.
They'll be slipping through.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
We've been on a by appointment status program from the get-go. All of the county clerks and other people I know in other counties are doing their openings by appointment only. I think DPS office in Cleveland is by appointment only. My office is by appointment only. What that means is if they show up at the door, you know, they get a piece of, or they have, there's a sign or they get a piece of paper that says you have to go make an appointment. If they're gonna stay there, they're at the whim of if there's an opening or somebody didn't show and we can fit them in. You know, but that's not encouraged and they have to stay outside the whole time until maybe we get an opening. So the bottom line is you make appointments. We have a sheet of paper that's every 15 minutes that we put people's names on. And that sheet of paper goes to, we'd like it to be electronic if we can figure out how to do it. But that sheet of paper goes to the front door. They don't let anybody in whose name is not on that sheet of paper.
And
That goes for my office, that goes for the court. When we start having court again, everybody comes in here by appointment only. They have to be on a list or they don't come in.
And
And that's
that's
all you
fine,
gotta
because you
do.
have 4 uniformed people that are controlling them coming in. I'm trying to say, I need the uniformed people to control that, and we can work with appointments, we can work with that, but I don't have anybody to stop them at the door. Right now, we just lock the door and we say, call us, and ideally, we're promoting, you call us, give us your credit card, and we mail your receipt to you, no one has to touch anything. And that was our original intent, but of course, then people say, well, I got cash on me. Well, I can't mail that. And then, so we started making some exceptions. And we know how to go back to just call us, we'll mail it to you. And we can go to that today. I mean, and we re-educate them that that's your only option, go online or go to the post office. We try to accommodate the ones who actually show up with cash and kind of car hop, but that has gotten out of control now. And so many of them, and at 4 per deal, it would just be a nonstop making appointments every 10 minutes, making appointments and keeping them. I'm in the parking lot where we can see you in 36 minutes, come back.
Yeah.
Because it's not something just precise, and it takes 2 minutes to get it done. So,
But are we creating an unsafe environment? I mean, I've looked outside their office where as they wait to get to the door, they're just sitting there congregating.
it is, and that's why I'm saying, hopefully today we find out when we're open to the public, and we're better off actually eliminating that. We know it's gotten out of control now. And if they would have just done what we said, from your car, call us, give us your payment, and we mail your deal, there's no contact, but none of that never works. And you know, then there's the exception. I got cash, I need to come in and talk to you. I don't own it, you know, so all these things we try to accommodate. If they drove here, we're trying to get them back so we don't have to deal with it when we do open to the public. Something as simple as a registration. But yeah, it is getting unsafe for handling money, for exposing to the employees. I mean, they mask up, they go out, they have to stay behind the line, they have to hand us the stuff and all that, but it just got a little more involved. And we can handle that. We're just trying to figure out, once we do start open to the public, we're actually going to need someone to be our doorkeeper. And the equivalent of the courthouse, that works here because you've got plenty of people committed to stop them at the deal. We don't have that insulation. Right now, we just have to lock the door and they, you know, they beat on the windows and they blow their horns and, you know, and then on top of that, our phones, after you get 5 phone calls, the 4th one cuts off, you know, so they get frustrated over even calling us. So it's, and we're not trying to accommodate everybody, we're just trying to minimize it. So when we do open up, we can handle the people that have title issues.
Leon, can we take one person off of courthouse security and give them to Brother Rick? They can do it in a rotation basis, you know, one person a day and still have adequate coverage here.
Depends on what we do with the courthouse.
Well, the courthouse are going to be coming in one entrance only, period, west end. Everybody has to come through, pass the thermometer test, walk through the metal detector and state their business here. I mean, just like we've been doing.
And are we talking about employees also?
Yes.
So no one coming in or out of this building unless they get checked.
I'm sure that that's going to be something we need to discuss too, because we have access
Exactly.
to the bottom and
How you gonna stop these?
Yeah. well, all we can do is lock the gates. All we can do is lock the gates.
Wait,
Yeah.
fire marshal.
And you can't do that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, let's one hurdle at a
And I'm
time.
listening, by the way.
Yeah, all right. One hurdle at a time. Leon, on the question for Rick over at the tax office. We're going to have active folks at the west end to cover ingress, egress of the public coming in.
Yeah.
Now,
I think it all boils down to several things, Jay. You know, what's our courts gonna do? Are they ready to open back up?
Yeah.
Our judges may- Our judges may not be ready to at this time.
well,
I don't know.
yeah, the OCA has approved our plan of action to open the courts.
If, you know, if we get a bunch of jurors coming in,
No jury trials.
No jury trials.
There won't be any jury trials till, I think the OCA said at least not through August.
Yeah,
do what now?
The OCA has said no jury trials at least through August.
Okay,
And they're doing some things. They've approved a pilot jury trial, but it was an unusual type of jury trial. And certainly not criminal where they're risking people's life or liberty on it. But they're wanting to kind of do pilot test cases before. We are far from that at this point.
well, if that's the case, I think we'd be safe for up until August. Utilize at least one courthouse security individual on a rotation basis.
well, I got a question for Dwayne and Leon, see if you can follow me on this one too. That would be more of a temporary position. And could we hire maybe two individuals in a temporary position to help out Rick at his office?
That's what I would prefer to do if we can afford it.
Yeah,
I hate taking away from that courthouse security.
I do too. But we're looking for a fix. So Dwayne, is there a way we can do that?
I don't think Dwayne's there anymore.
I don't think he's there.
You're not?
He's got it muted on his side.
Yeah, he's muted on his side. I can't unmute him.
Hang on a minute, Jay, I'll call you.
Okay.
From a legal perspective, I don't see any issues. This was, typically you can't create new buckets
Right.
in the middle of the year
Unless it's an emergency
unless it's an emergency and due to unforeseen
circumstances.
This is what this is.
And that's what, so.
And
Can I
Kim?
offer one more thing? On our deal, because right now, the way we have it set up with the courts are the cases we've got scheduled for the dockets. And then like with my staff has with people coming in by appointment. They're on a list and they come in the building. They're going to be checking them at the door. The problem is they're going to be going to multiple offices while they're here. Something that happened last week when I was in the medical center, the first one that screened me put a paper tape thing around my hand. So every checkpoint I went through, they went, oh, you got a green thing, go on.
Yes.
So they weren't checking us every office.
Wayne, we need you back on Zoom if you can get there. Okay, quick question, Dwayne. I know you're not available for where we can look at your beautiful face. We're discussing the fact that
Once we open the courthouse up to the public with security is in place with face masks, hand sanitizer, thermometers, you wouldn't have to do the appointments.
I don't worry about coming up down the appointment. That's the only way we control how many people get in the hallway and get down.
If there was already.
individuals coming in now that tax.
Doesn't matter. I still want 5 or 6 people crammed in.
Yeah. And the other thing too is Bruce, is she gets a lot of calls from Harris County.
Well, yeah.
People coming out of Harris County, and it's just going to be.
Jay,
Hey,
can you hear me?
yeah,
Dwayne says that he feels there's some money that's already allocated to that. And if that's what we wanted to do, we could do it.
Well, hallelujah. All right.
I just don't want to take away from that courthouse security right now, Jay.
I don't either. I was looking for a way to.
Especially with the way the environment is throughout the United States right now.
Yeah.
And I feel that if we, we can apply a temporary employee or full-time, whichever, we see fit would be our best option.
Okay. Well, we're gonna need to, Kim, what we need to do on that, advertise for someone to do this?
Well, that's at the discretion of whoever the department head is. So first you need to establish who this person would work under.
Mhm.
So.
Jay?
So,
Yeah.
Why would we need to advertise? That Rick's requesting a uniform officer.
Yeah.
So why don't we leave that option up to either the sheriff or one of our constables to handle that?
certainly.
Because they're gonna have to carry, one of them's gonna have to carry the commission.
Yeah. Okay. Sheriff, what are your thoughts?
That's fine with that.
Okay, all right. You think you can go out to the bus station and find me a deputy to go down and
We'll put Captain Dunn on it today.
all right, sounds good. That'll work.
Appreciate it.
All right. I believe we got that covered, Leon. The sheriff said he would jump on that. Okay. All right, so
Hey, let's just ask if Bobby would. Dwayne's unavailable right now. But if the sheriff would get with Dwayne a little later today and get it ironed out, then we can move forward with this, okay?
okay. All right, so the annexes are good. The West End's good. Brother Rick's good. All right, we're good.
I think you're gonna need a motion in order though to create that position.
Okay. You hear that, Leon? We'll need a motion.
Do we need that motion, Matthew?
Yeah.
Even if the funds have been allocated for that?
Well, I don't know that they've been allocated. I mean, if there is a position already created in a budget in the department, what I'm betting Dwayne is saying, and maybe I'm wrong, is that we have money squirreled away somewhere. And my bet would be.
No, it's fine, yes.
Yeah, that it's probably a position in law enforcement somewhere that hasn't been filled for whatever reason, because it's difficult to hire folks or whatever. I'm betting that's what he means. And it might be in the courthouse security budget, it might be in another, I don't know. But in any event, if we're talking about filling that bucket that's already existing, well, that's one thing. That's fine. That doesn't need a motion in order. All that needs is the department head to say, yes, that's fine. I will allocate that position, that resource to, and order them to go there and take care of Ricky's office. And no motion orders needed, but we do need to know whether that bucket exists or not, because otherwise it's a budget amendment. We're gonna have to treat it as such, and we'll need to do a motion and order. And quite frankly, I don't believe today's, not to be too persnickety, but today's agenda item is broad enough to cover that. I think we're gonna have to have another meeting.
I agree.
But I mean, we can do it quick, man. I'll, whatever I can do to make that happen, I'll do.
It's good to have a motion to approve this, because it's all part of going back to operations with an amendment in there to add temporary.
No, I think we would risk running afoul of the Open Meetings Act.
Well, let's just approve this and add it on Tuesday's agenda.
Yeah.
We can do that.
The question I was getting, Ms. Chambers, was not whether you did appointments or not, but when we open the doors of the courthouse for people to come in, how do we know where these people are coming in? I don't want them to just come jumping into your office, or if they need to go to Ms. Seller's office. That's my question.
That's what we're saying. Nobody comes in without an appointment.
So you're saying we need to just make it where no one comes in this courthouse without an appointment?
On the dockets that we have set up for the court, and I don't know about the district courts, I only know about our courts. But we have dockets, those dockets will go to security on the day they're supposed to come in, they're spread across times slots. So we have 10 coming in at 9 o'clock in the morning, those 10 only come in, nobody else. You know, if they've got an attorney, they're on the list, they only come in, nobody else. Anybody else that's gonna come in, the judge has to say it's okay, and then we tell security, we let them in, but no entourage, no husband, wives, anything, you know, defendant, attorney, that's it. They're gonna sit in a numbered spot in this place and out in the hallway, and no more than those 10 people. The next group come in at 10:30, you know, we have them spread out, but the same thing with my office. We have 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:30, we put them on a list, we tell the guys downstairs, if they're not on the list, they don't come in. Now, they can sit outside and call us on the cell phone and we can discuss the problem, but they don't come in unless they're on a list. And that's been working fantastic for us. If you open the doors and just let anybody come in, that's what they're going to do. And we've been able to control and keep things clean and sanitized before somebody walks into our office, before somebody comes into this courtroom. Guess what? They're cleaning their hands before they touch a pen, a piece of paper, anything. They're going to hand sanitize, they're going to have a mask on, you know, so we know who's in. They sign a piece of paper once they come into our office, you know, what shows their name and what time they were there. They put on hand sanitizer. If they need a mask, we do that. They stand behind the glass and we take care of them. And the same thing for the courtroom. And it actually works, and it doesn't overwhelm the security guys, you know, but if you let the public just walk in and out, we got an issue.
Okay.
Because they're gonna cram in the hallways, they're gonna cram in the office spaces, and you're gonna have exposure issues. So right now, we can control it.
Deal,
You gotta keep
yeah.
people only coming in the front door that have, whose name is on the list.
Deal, how's yours?
Staying out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Now it's getting a little hot.
Yeah.
And they're saying, hey, you should provide us with shelter and fans.
Yeah.
You know, like,
All right, if it's working better right now by appointment, Delia, how's yours working?
Well, right now, because the public's not coming in, but if attorneys call or something, said that when they come in and check something, we're giving them appointment
Yeah.
dates as to when they come in.
If you did offer access to the public, how would you want to do it?
Well, but whatever y'all are doing at the front door to check them out, but they're only coming in one at a time into that little hallway.
Yeah.
But right there, when they first come in, where the grand jury room is, I was just thinking, if they just being let in, they're all gonna be standing right around there waiting. And we have to go through there to get to the courtrooms. You know, because that's the only exit we have to get to the courthouse in all ways and stuff. So I'm thinking, I don't know how to work that little area right there where they don't just congregate and get right there.
Can most of your business be handled by phone or by email?
I want to say, I would say 85% can be.
Yeah.
Okay.
they just don't choose to do that.
The only
That's the
problem that we had yesterday, Jay, was Judge Kane had hearings.
Right.
At one point, they were hovering, everybody that was there for court was hovering right there in that hallway.
Yeah.
And for us to get out, to get to the court was a little difficult at that point. But I think between Chad and I think Ivan was standing out there, I think they kind of cleared that out.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem that we'll have on hearing aids.
Well, you know, based on the design of our courthouse, we've got a problem. And Brenda, I mean, you've got to do what you've got to do, but you can make them stand out in the hallway and
Right.
holler through the door.
They were kind of hovering in that area right there.
Okay. So y'all can do 85% of your work online or by phone. And if they want to come in and see you for some reason, they make an appointment, you can set them up with an appointment. That would be good. Okay. Let's move on. Hey,
Ask Delia, she has the ability to do certified copies by email or fax.
nope.
Nope,
Okay.
but if they call us and say they need a certified copy of this or whatever, we can make it and then leave it up front and they can
Okay.
get it in.
Yeah. You hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They can make a copy and leave it at the front door if they call ahead. We can make this work. It's going to be a little difficult, but not near as difficult.
Yeah.
Because we still have people coming in from, the barns, county barns and everywhere else, checking their mail here.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's been going on. I mean, if we're gonna consider opening the courthouse, or we're gonna consider keeping it like it is.
I think right now, we're going to keep it like it is. If it's working and nobody's griping too loud, I think we're just happy as we can be. So Delia, you and Melody can work on your end, how y'all want to handle the 15%.
You're not opening it to the public, right?
No.
Correct. Good.
Only with an appointment. And I have, those old ballot boxes?
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
We have some of those with the locks, and I keep one at the front door. So if somebody just wants to drop off a marriage license, they hand it to the guard and he slips it into the lock box where nobody else can touch it except the person with the key. And so we've been letting people just drop things off at the front door without having to come in and bring it to us. The ones that don't want to mail it, or if they get here and it's like, so the Dropbox thing works really well. The appointment thing works really well. And I think we could make it work for the court thing too. It's just, what we don't want is the same thing. We don't want people congregating all over the hallway with my guys and the judge and everybody else walking up down the hall.
Exactly.
We're limiting it as much as we possibly can.
I agree with this approach. I do urge the court to pass a policy though, or at least give the instructions to modify. I have a policy here, which I sent out yesterday as well. I think leaving up to department heads is required under our form of government. The only thing Commissioners Court can really control is the doors downstairs and the hallway.
Right.
But we also don't want, I don't want a situation, I don't think any of us would, where we have on the windows downstairs, how many departments there are in the courthouse, each with their own set of instructions on how they're going to conduct business.
Right.
So I think it would really behoove the court to pass something that we can all work with, all live with, and that describes some things. Also, we don't have in place health screenings right now in the current policy. And so if we're going to do some things like that, we do need to have that policy in place.
We ask when they call for an appointment, we ask if they're a Liberty County resident, have they had any exposure, or any, symptoms of COVID-19 and that kind of thing. And we have signs all over the place that say, if you do, don't come near us. So, I mean, that, but we haven't been testing people.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Right. Yeah. But I think ideally what we would want is some sort of statement, the general rule, no one comes into the courthouse unless you're an employee or you have an appointment prearranged with one of the departments, period. And then we make those appointment slips available to folks. And so each department give it to whoever's coming in. And if you're on a docket, then the courthouse security would already have your name. But that way each department has given something to courthouse security that lets them know. Yeah.
I know we had a preliminary when we opened back up, this is kind of what we proposed, like your staff will wear face masks, you'll wipe down every time they come in, we'll shoot them with the deal and they have to fill out a 8-question deal. Is that comes with the security that I'm getting, and that person will be the one that says, okay, you ask you these questions and you got to sign your name, and then my staff has to wear masks once they come in. Is that the overall policy that everyone, because right now, I know staff in the courthouse are not wearing masks. I said, you're wearing one, I'm not wearing one right now. I'm in the courthouse, but that policy kind of said that my staff must wear masks once we allow the public to come into our office, and we have to wipe down every time, clean the surface, and we have to make them answer these 8 questions. And they have to sign their name.
Yes, so that's what I would suggest, that we set it up where department heads do their own employees, screen their own employees. Come in, you get, no touch thermometer to the forehead or right behind the ear. And then they fill out the health screen form. Every department head keeps those, maintains them for their own. And then security does the same for members of the public.
And then we retain all those sheets.
Yes, and then you retain those sheets. How
long?
Well, I guess indefinitely.
This one has some.
I mean, you can always scan them and put them in your computer.
Yeah. Until we get a vaccine, I'll talk about.
Oh,
Yeah.
But again, that's gonna hold up the security, that's gonna take them a little bit longer. Again, just, and again, I went yesterday to a courtroom, which is not in this area, but the little guy scanned me, he asked me 5 questions while I was coming in, I had to wear a mask, and then he was done, and I went in.
Yep.
And so, that's kind of a microwave version of what you just described to me.
Yeah, that's probably maybe a quicker way.
Yeah, and so I'm saying, we don't have to authenticate it, we know our policy is we question people rather than we make them fill out a form.
Yeah.
That could be a difference of 20 minutes, maybe, for someone like, we get some elderly people and they're like, well, like the chef is Steve, I'm just saying, whereas if you're asking, if we ask the same question to everybody, and if they answer yes on any of those, boom, you're out of here.
That's right.
Or you're shooting 100-degree, 101 temperature, you're out of here.
That's it.
Other than that, it's just basically run them through, hitting them, and that took about 2 minutes.
That's correct.
Versus
Yeah, and maybe it could just be a sheet with with those 5 questions on there.
that he's asking orally, but you're saying you want to memorialize it.
I would think I would encourage it for employees.
Employees, I have no problem with it.
The public.
But the public, and I'm handling making 300 or 400 trips a day, that could get onerous, and that would really slow down our progress of getting them in and out, because it only takes 2 minutes to do the transaction.
Okay,
It took them 10 minutes to get qualified to come in.
I got a way to, I think, to get this settled. We're not gonna do this today. I mean, we'll be here till 7 o'clock tonight to get all this worked out. But we do have a posted meeting that's gonna be coming up. It has not been posted yet, but it's gonna be posted Thursday for Tuesday. So what I could do is task you department heads to write your own policy for opening up, how you want to handle it. And under 5 here, number 5 on page 2, we can go like 5.1. This is going to be the county clerk's office. 5.2 or 5B rather would be the district clerk's office. 5C, will be Brother Rick's office. That way you run through this and you get it exactly to where it is in policy, it's written, it's accepted, adopted by the Commissioners Court.
Because different situations warrant it.
Then it can be posted to the public. Now, talking about posting to the public, people don't like to read. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I've witnessed this, and I do not like Facebook, but I'm gonna tell you all the truth. During the starting point of this COVID business, I did use it every day. And you would be surprised at how many people actually would dial into it. I know when Matthew and I sat here and we did our first executive order, 17,500 people viewed that video.
Rock star.
Well, no, there's a lot of 17,500 pissed off people.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was it. Yeah, can't say any nicer, but still, the whole point was this, they do that. I mean, you could go on there with a video online and either YouTube it, you can do it on Facebook. Deal, I know you love Facebook.
Oh.
Yeah, you can get Clint to help you. He would be great. I mean, I guarantee you. But you can go on there and people will pay attention to that. You can put the Vindicator and they use that for the bottom of their birdcage. I hate to say that, but that's just the way it is. Printed media is no longer what it used to be. And, but you can do it that way and the word's going to get out. People go like, oh, and they comment and what they say, well, here it is. They have interpretations. If they have the wrong interpretation, you can correct it real quick because you'll have somebody looking at it.
Same use of the grapevine too.
Well, yeah, it's a whole new grapevine. It really is, but it's a pretty darn accurate grapevine right now.
So I guess when you go down there and say, when they say it's the courthouse open, it's per office.
Right.
Not open, the courthouse is
Right.
not open. By appointment on the check with each office.
I mean, Dee Dee could put it online on the county's website.
Right.
you know, per,
We can put it in our own.
To
Yeah.
all department heads, with the corporation of Dwayne's office, the auditor's office, we have procured, or he has procured about 10,000 masks that we can use. Also, we have plenty of 750 gallons of hand sanitizer for the department heads to.
You talking about that big
Okay,
thing that y'all have, the,
Taco sauce.
no, that vodka looking thing? Are you talking about that? That big bottle of vodka looking?
No, it's juice. No, this is 250 gallons
It's
total.
great.
Jen, Leon's trying to.
Leon,
back to the tax office, Dwayne just notified me and said that there's funds that are only for temporary position.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's 6 months.
well, that's,
We work with that, Judge.
Sheriff said he can work with that, Leon. That's 6 months on temporary, so we're good. Okay,
They've, school resource officers are out for the summer now.
yeah,
So I don't know if there'd be a constable and volunteer
yeah.
until, that'll get you a little bit of space there.
Well-
In order to staff that under the sheriff or however.
Yeah.
Right.
We can-
Constable Hunter currently has 2 and Mad Dog has 4.
Okay.
School resource
Well, regardless, we're not gonna do anything today,
officer.
Right.
but what I would do is ask department heads to write their own policy, how they want to handle it, because this courthouse is a different critter. It is not built for COVID-19. So we're gonna have to work it that way. And right now, what Lee's doing, and what everybody else been doing, especially in my office, it's working great. You know, you're not gonna get a lot of walk-in customers come by and say, what'd you do this weekend, Delia? You know, you're just not gonna have that anymore, but it's gonna work out okay.
I guess my question is, so the guideline policy that the county is having for the front door is no one comes in unless they're screened with the thermometer, correct?
Right?
No one comes in unless they have a mask. Is that correct?
We'll provide the mask.
We'll provide the mask, and they have to be an employment on the list. It's just like the metal detector. When they come through that door, we can feel comfortable that they have been checked
Mhm.
the way they're supposed to be. Is that right?
Right.
So only department policy that we need to say is what's gonna happen once they get past that door.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Well, for the courthouse, because we have other offices like
Well,
Brown,
right,
David Douglas's office that need to address their own issues of where they're at.
right. But we can rest assured. Yeah.
You seem to be working very well.
I'd take it a step further,
Okay,
and upon entry of the door, that they also utilize hand sanitizer.
we got that. We got hand sanitizers, mama, believe me. Okay. Well, let's make it, yeah, right now we're taking no action on this, but y'all listen up a minute. I will task the department heads to write your own policy of how you want to operate until there's either a vaccine if people want to take it, or until the election in November when everybody says it's gone. I don't know how it's gonna go.
Thursday, Judge?
Uh-huh.
You want it prior to Thursday so we can have it.
Prior to Tuesday. I mean, I need,
Prior to Thursday, so.
well,
So we go in the agenda.
yeah, we can put it in the agenda. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I mean, go ahead and put it on the agenda. We're gonna do it. We just
Yeah.
have to get it to you.
Get it to you by Tuesday. or
Yes,
by
ma'am.
Monday.
And then we can actually, on Tuesday, we can set a date that this is gonna be enacted. Okay? That way the public is gonna be informed and we'll go from there. Okay. So that being said, oh, wait,
So right now, if they're on the docket for court, they're coming to court, they're filling out a form because the Office of Court Administration says that.
yeah,
So if they have an appointment now, they'll start the appointment. They're gonna adopt the policy, I guess, the Commissioner Court, that they be screened.
Yeah, we don't have screening yet.
They're required for a mask.
If they will be required to wear masks if they are coming to court, because that's the only
That's
place.
not saying that they have to all put in county clerk's office, but they're required to be encouraged.
Our piece says encouraged, because we didn't have enough to hand out, but we encourage them to wear masks and even gloves if they want to. But the minute they come in our office, the first thing before they touch anything is we're hosing them down. That way we don't keep cleaning our pins and everything. We keep microben on our surfaces to keep them germ-free, and it's been working great, so.
Okay,
So we'll have a mask for those that want them,
yeah,
and have sanitizer at the front door, plenty.
but I think the main question though, on that, what Bruce, was that per OCA requirements, they will wear a mask in court, period. And I would think,
The 10,000 is gonna be allocated to each department,
yeah,
and we make that requisition through Bruce.
yes.
Okay.
That, as long as he knows where it went,
I need 5,000.
we can charge it later. Okay,
I'll take the other.
yeah. All right, so y'all know what to do as far as department heads go. You write your policy for reopening, even though it's not going to be the normal, it's going to be new. So let's do that. And common sense, once again, Dealey sure does work well around here. Yeah, we hadn't had the problems that they've had in Harris County
You
here.
can always come back if it's not working.
That's right. All right, Brother Leon, you got anything else?
Yeah. No.
Nothing? Okay. Huh? Time out, just a minute. We got thermometers. So if your department needs a thermometer, get you one today. That way, Dee Dee has them in the office and she has a sheet that you just check them out and say, I've got one. And he can get you a laundry marker right on there, put on there, this is Delia's thermometer, don't run off with it, whatever you do. And, you know, just like this is not your mama's hand sanitizer. But anyway, all right, well, let's not take any action on this today. Matthew,
Make a motion on this?
Larry, you got some?
Yes, sir. So are we not going to open?
Today?
I heard a lot of discussion about the courthouse, but I haven't heard much about mandates.
Well, that's going to, again, that's going to be free throw to you to fill out your recommendation, how you want to open. You know, department heads, you're elected just like I am.
Well, like, I'm not the only one there. Rick has an office there.
Yeah, and Rick will have his own policy.
In his office, you know, we live behind the glass.
Yeah.
So we're not.
The only place you're going to be susceptible is people coming into your courtroom that's wide open
We're restricted to the guidelines that.
of OCA. Yeah.
So we have to follow those guidelines.
Right.
But I'm talking about the people who are going to come through the front door, come through our window.
So
The
existing policy says everything is closed. What we have right now says closed to the public, except by appointment of the department that, you know, is there. So, yeah, so at this, everything right now, it's closed to the public. But if you have somebody, you want to, same goes for Ricky's office. So, same case as ours.
So we can open the door and let them in. And then tell them about filing.
Yeah.
They have an appointment, yeah. That's what we're doing in Cleveland right now. So.
Yeah. You know, the main thing is educating the public. Yeah. Well, Judge, why don't you and Rick get together and work out? I think the main thing was with Robbie at the front door or somebody in his office at the front door, shooting him in the head with a thermometer and getting them to fill out the appropriate form would be sufficient to get them through at least through the entrance, but still they have to, I think the appointment aspect is even better. That way they're.
Comfortable with the full glass coverage we have.
Yeah.
But if someone's checking at the door to come into that general area, whether they're coming to us or to the court or to the JP or whatever they're going to.
Yeah.
We don't need to recheck them once they're in there.
Right.
But we want to check before they get into that area.
Well, in the annex, in that regard, let me ask you, Rick, with the annex, it's different, you know, setup than your office. Would the general public be able to go in there without an appointment to your
Absolutely.
annex?
Because we don't think a 3-minute interview deans and the point, that's not right. We have to be making like every 5 minutes a new appointment. And we wouldn't know until they showed up in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And there's no way to get out word to the public. No way you can come in and you need an appointment because they just drove by and they're coming in. I mean, it's spontaneous, a lot of it. And we would spend more time making appointments than we would actually getting the transaction done and getting them out of the deal and
Okay.
not seeing them for another year.
And Larry, all they do at your office is go up to your bulletproof glass and talk to your clerks. Unless they have a court date. Right.
So you have that protection in Cleveland and in Liberty.
Yeah.
Because once they're in there, they're not coming in contact with us. They're just handing it through the deal. And we had that same in Liberty, but we don't have that. Once we have the law enforcement do a stop, but right now, we would rather them come in and go through that screening deal than the chaos we have in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And we're gonna stop that today.
Okay, all right.
Because it's become a hazard, you know. And there's no holding place for them. They're sitting in their car, or they're sitting out in the hot sun.
Yeah, the motor running, well,
And
yeah.
it's here, you can put them under the hay barn and be cool. You know, we don't have one of those.
For a minute. Okay.
So
All right,
I think it's a workable deal for us.
okay.
And it's even more controlled if we can let them in.
All right. So Larry, you think between you and Robbie and Rick, that annex is fine?
I see no reason why we can't open up that.
Okay.
What do you say, Jake?
He said there's no reason they couldn't open up the annex in precinct 4.
Okay.
The way it's operating now. Robbie's gonna take care of them at the door. And from that point on, they're good to go, you know, back to Ricky's glassed in area to pick up registration or pay tax, whatever they gotta do. And then, of course, Judge Wilburn's window has glass about that thick, you know, in front of it. So they're not gonna be breathing on anybody there. And the only way they're gonna be allowed in the courtroom is if they're led into the courtroom. And that's gonna be because it's been set on docket, correct?
Now, we don't have representation for the Cleveland office. I'm assuming the same thing would follow through, but with the constable not being housed in the actual annex, it does make it a little bit of a challenge.
The constable's up for re-election.
Yes, I heard that. I heard that.
Cleveland needs a security guy.
Yeah. We'll take,
We need to clarify that. with
yeah,
them.
I believe we can take care of that. But, if nothing else, I'll get with the sheriff if there's adequate money in there to get somebody.
Okay, when we gonna open the doors to the annex precinct 4?
What's good for y'all as far as opening your doors in precinct 4?
Tomorrow morning?
Judge Wilbur said tomorrow morning. Robbie did too.
That good with Rick?
I hate to ask this question, but you know, we've got an order right now saying they're closed.
Yeah.
We don't have an order telling them to reopen.
I think we better pause for a minute on this and let's get this done Tuesday. That way we get a little time for clarification. We get the orders for opening from each department and we can compile those into the order itself or the resolution. And then we can pass it in court and then advertise it accordingly. That way there's no question and it doesn't put you in a predicament when somebody comes over and says, well, now they're mad because Cleveland's not open. You know,
I really
but
just
Judge
like
Wilbur
to
is.
suggest if we create a soft spot, everybody's gonna go to Dayton now.
Yeah.
They're gonna leave Liberty, they're gonna leave Cleveland, and they're gonna load up, and all we have is 2 workstations. in
Yeah.
Dayton.
Yeah.
So
They'll be lined out the door.
they'll be out.
Yeah.
To, so if we don't do it consistently where everybody can kind of come in.
Yeah.
We can spread the crowd out.
Judge Ebert, how do you want to do it? I mean, that's what we're going to ask you.
Right now, we've been,
Yeah, I know.
I've got evictions this afternoon at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And I mean, we gotta.
It gets down to being what's comfortable to you and how to operate it, because you've got a bailiff, I think, kind of, sort of.
But the problem is we have 3 doors.
I know.
Locking them. It's, the driver's license office on back in. 2 doors.
The driver's license office anticipation is to open after the governor has his teleconference today. He's gonna give instructions on what offices are gonna be opening. Is it gonna be a full, wide open state of Texas, or gonna still be staged or not? And talking to the driver's license supervisor late Friday evening, they anticipate that they're gonna open, and it'll be Wednesday. Which I told them, if you open Wednesday, you're on your own, that you can only have one door open. And you're not gonna have people camped out all in the building and out on the lawn. And they understand that. But they have their own procedures set up, with the bombers and all this other stuff too. That's state of Texas. That's a whole different door over
It's
there.
gonna be complicated because we have two doors on our end.
Right.
We have access to the driver's license office. All this stuff. I don't know how they're gonna control that.
Our biggest issue is DMV.
Yeah.
That's who's giving us all the trouble now. It's registrations, titles. It's not property taxes. We can handle property taxes.
Yeah.
And to me, that's our biggest benefit is being, these other ones are just because DMV's directing. And the governor gave that waiver.
Yeah.
Gives us.
Well, on one hand, we're telling Judge Fuller, I'm sorry, Wilbur, to wait, and most of us is already open.
Yeah, that's.
Yes, the tax office in Wilburn's.
I can reschedule the eviction hearings until after Tuesday.
Well, I think there's some, so what is frustrating about county government, right, is that we have our independent silos. Commissioner's Court can't tell you what to do, what you have to hear now. About the only thing that they could argue with is try to, close the door to your place. But what I mean is, it really does take Commissioner's Court and the independent courts to work in cooperation to get something. You can have courts, I think, under our existing policy, you got a docket, that's more or less an appointment. And, you can say, all right, you're coming in, and that's okay right now. I don't see any issue.
We don't have the manpower to stand outside the door. So, we're gonna let them come in the lobby and sign up on the sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
Call them in one by one.
Yeah. I don't know a better way.
Well, you got a constable. Can you find him? Okay, just checking.
He's at my house the other day.
Okay. Clint, you got anything you can think of? Captain Knox? You good?
I guess.
Y'all stay ready to keep them getting ready, don't you?
Yeah. Just some concern as far as staffing the offices. It may be better to do it as a part-time, because we're short 6 officers right now that we can't fill spots for.
Yeah.
And so maybe with that money is offer that to be a part-time or overtime spot for an officer. We can get them in there immediately, because now we're taking guys off the street.
Yeah.
So
That's extra jobs.
yeah,
There's a lot of extra.
we got a lot of, we need to put our heads together before next Tuesday for sure.
Okay. I mean, I'm if Sheriff's good with that, I'm good with it. It help those officers. Yeah. Strange times we have. Yeah. One nice thing about it, with the teamwork aspect we've got, we can make it work. Simple. Okay. All right. So y'all know what to do. You gonna write your little policy, Melody? Got it there? Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Got it. All right. He's already got hers pretty much. We're gonna go that route. Okay. Need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, wait a minute. Before we do that, need a motion to take no action on this item.
Make a motion to take no action on item 3.
A second. All in favor, say aye. Okay, now I need a motion to adjourn. Greg, second Bruce. All in favor, Leon?
Yep.
All right. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.